When you look at kind of the makeup of members of Congress and their districts, you are exactly the kind of Democrat that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is focused on right now when it comes to the issue of impeachment. Democrats who successfully flipped House districts that had been red to blue in order to win back the House majority. From your perspective, and there are not a lot of folks that are in your position in a district that was flipped that are supporting impeachment right now. For you, why take the risk, if you will?
Well, I come from a district where Democrats and Republicans support the rule of law and doing the right thing. And they understand that you don't get to defy a legally binding subpoena in the United States, whether you're a kid in my district who's summoned to court or a former presidential staffer. These are lines that can't be crossed. And I think for me, it's very straightforward. There has to be some institution in Washington that's willing to hold the line in defense of the rule of law. And if nobody does, there will be no line.
You know, when I talk to Democrats in competitive districts, swing districts, those like yourself who flipped districts this last cycle, they often tell me, and when I say why aren't you there yet, they say that what they're hearing from constituents is they don't want us to focus on impeachment or the Russia investigation, the Mueller report. They want you to focus on the agenda, health care, the opioid crisis, you name it. For those members, what's your message to them?
Well, I'm not trying to persuade anybody else. I'm trying to do what I think is right. But I can tell you that folks in my district absolutely want me to focus on infrastructure, on health care, and on gun violence. And they don't see any contradiction between doing that and also standing up for the rule of law and checks and balances. I campaigned on both. And, you know, the notion that we can just ignore everything that's happening, this freak show at the White House, it's just not realistic. It's like saying that, you know, I'm so focused on remodeling my kitchen that I'm not going to pay attention to my house catching fire. We do have a constitutional duty to do both. The House of Representatives has done a great job on health care and on infrastructure and gun violence. We can do this as well.
As Manu Raju was just speaking with, he's got some great reporting that the House Speaker, still behind closed doors, is making clear her opposition to opening up impeachment proceedings right now. I mean, what do you think is going to convince her? Because she's not where you are right now.
Well, first of all, I completely understand where she's coming from. She's dealing with this ridiculous situation where no matter what the president does, it's not clear that the Senate will meet its constitutional duty. So we face this burden alone. And in a sense, you know, I'm glad that you've got me on and that you're asking Democrats to wrestle with this live on CNN. But shouldn't the question be posed to Republicans? Why is this okay?
I'm definitely asking those questions as well, Congressman.
Right. I mean, why is it okay that you know, we get to invite a foreign power to interfere in our elections and then fire an FBI director for investigating it? That's not something that any Republican would have tolerated a Democratic president doing. And so let's focus on that fundamental issue. It's defending our democracy and the rule of law.
So next week, House Judiciary Committee is going to begin hearings on the Mueller report. Bob Mueller not testifying, but they are going to begin hearings on this. When I see that, I started wondering, is the House, in essence, opening impeachment proceedings, but just calling it by a different name?
We are absolutely going to do our duty and continue the investigation that Mr. Mueller started. He passed us a ball. He made it absolutely clear that there are things that as a special counsel he could not do, that only the United States Congress has the constitutional power to do. And we're going to do it, whatever you call it. This is our duty, and the people sent us here to do our duty.
Do you see it that way, though, that impeachment proceedings are basically beginning, but the terminology is sensitive because there is a real, you know, there's a sensitivity to it, because obviously the connotation of we're starting impeachment proceedings is a major declaration, if you would say it. But do you think it's the same thing?
I think it.
Or convince
it
me
may,
it's not. How about that?
It may amount to the same thing. I mean, you know the history that in the Nixon impeachment, you know, there was a long set of hearings. We called them the Watergate hearings. There was not an actual impeachment inquiry until very shortly before President Nixon resigned. The important thing is that we take this seriously. That's what Bob Mueller asked us to do. America was attacked. We have to take it seriously, and we can't expect the American people to take it seriously unless they see us doing that first.
Let us see where it goes in the day, honestly, the hours and days ahead. Congressman, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate your time.